as we run the floor to their 32nd win. Came with a tough night against the Nets. They have taken a 2-0 series lead behind Fred VanVleet. He had 24 points, 10 assists, a 104-99 win over the Nets. Toronto now 9-1 since play resumed in the bubble. Elsewhere, the Jazz even up their series one apiece with the Nuggets. They win at 124-105. Donovan Mitchell, a 21-point third quarter, finished with 30 and 8 assists. Jordan Clarkson chipped in with a playoff career-high 26 points off the bench, and now they're going to get Conley back, so the Jazz look dangerous. The Celtics are taking apart the Sixers, 128-101. They're up 2 games to zip. Jason Tatum, 33 points, passing Larry Bird as the youngest Celtic with consecutive 30-point playoff games. He's also the youngest player in NBA playoff history to make 8 threes in a game. So that was last night. Then we go back to Tuesday. After losing Game 1 to the Blazers, the top-seeded Lakers are looking to bounce back tonight, 9 Eastern. Here's what Paul Pierce had to say about LeBron James and the Lakers yesterday on First Take.
If they don't win this year, LeBron's not getting any younger. This is going to be a big hit on his legacy, and I've already said he's not a top 5 player of all time. If the Lakers don't win a championship, let alone lose in the first round, I don't want to hear none of this GOAT talk no more.
All right, so Paul Pierce and LeBron obviously go a ways back, but Tim Legler, as he's saying, if they lose this series, you can cancel the GOAT talk when it comes to LeBron. Does it make sense?
Yeah, I think it does make sense. I think it's fair because you look at this situation. They're a #1 seed in the Western Conference. The teammate that he has in Anthony Davis is the specific pairing that LeBron James orchestrated to play with that particular player in LA. If you lose to an 8 seed, regardless of the fact that we know it's not an ordinary 8 seed, we know how great Damian Lillard is and how well he's playing. The bottom line is, if you are LeBron James and you have the #1 seed in the West and you're playing alongside another top 10 player in the NBA, you can't lose to the Portland Trail Blazers in the first round. That's going to be a serious hit. I disagree with Paul about LeBron's ranking all time in terms of being in the top 5. He's definitely a top 5 player of all time in my mind. But I also think there's comfortable separation between LeBron James and Michael Jordan. Even if I put LeBron James as #2, there's a gap there between him and Michael Jordan. And that would have been there, I think, regardless of how this plays out with the Lakers this year and going forward. But at this point, if LeBron wants to really narrow that focus and get that conversation a little bit tighter with Michael Jordan, then he almost has to play this out perfectly. And that means you can't get upset by an 8 seed in the first round of the postseason when you've got a teammate like Anthony Davis. It just can't happen,
right,
or else that conversation is going to be muted for a lot of people.
I agree. But here's what I'll say then to sort of spin it together, and I talked about this on the radio yesterday. I'm very confident the Lakers still win this series for exactly that reason, because players like LeBron don't lose to 8 seeds. It was a bad night. The Trailblazers have been playing playoff games. You know, that was their 10th postseason game for all intents and purposes in the last 3 weeks. The last time the Lakers played a meaningful game was before the world shut down for the coronavirus. Think how long ago that seems. They'll get into this flow of this. LeBron will figure it out because he's LeBron, and I still believe the Lakers win the series comparatively easily. Do you agree?
Well, I came on here Tuesday with you and I said it was not going to shock me if they dug a hole in this series because of how well Portland was playing, the fact that they had basically 9 playoff games to get ready for this series while the Lakers hadn't played a meaningful game since March. So I kind of saw the trap at the start of this series, but I also said at the end of the day, the better team is going to win a best of 7. And I think ultimately LeBron James' physical presence is going to take over this series. They're going to do a better job on making Damian Lillard a little bit less efficient, and then their size and just physical strength up front. And LeBron James, I think, taking more of a role as a scorer, I think will take over this series. It could be a long series. It might go 7 games. But the Lakers are ultimately going to win this, I believe.
You know who they need? They need Tim Legler. You can't shoot 5 of 32 from three-point range and expect to win a playoff game, and I don't expect him to shoot that badly. But give me one guy, got 1 minute left here. Who's the one guy who's going to have to knock down shots for them to win tonight and get themselves back in this?
I think Kyle Kuzma has to have a big night. He's got to have a stamp on this game. Give a game like basically the Dallas bench gave last night. One of those moments where you give them 20 points. That's what he has to do to take some of the pressure off both of their bigs. This is not a good three-point shooting team. We know that. But game 1 was an abomination. They've got to be a little bit better than 5 for 32. So I think Kyle Kuzma is a guy that I would look at and say he has the ability to step up and give them that supplemental offense. But LeBron's got to be much better too.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.